So essentially we're in the form of hypocrisy because we're supporting them somehow.
It looks like the forest factory farming. I'm glad I stopped to look at this.
Hello. Have you seen any footage like that before?
No, what is that?
So these screens are showing standard practices from animal agriculture.
Okay.
So these aren't like isolated, selected abuses. We're just showing a highlight reel or something. These are just looking into basically what happens. These are this is from a movie called Dominion out of Australia, and it's just showing the day in and day out of what happens inside of slaughterhouses. There are also examples of what's happening to animals and for other purposes, like for testing, for example, or for sport as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Would you guys? I don't know how much of it you've seen, but would you classify what you see on the screens as animal abuse?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Would you say that it's possible to genuinely be against animal abuse while still paying for those things that you see on the screens to happen?
To generally be against abuse, animal abuse.
Yeah, like if
be okay with those things.
Yeah, like if you're against what you see there, would you say that you would have an obligation to not support those things if you're supporting it? Yeah.
Absolutely, yes.
Cool.
There got to be a humane way to do it, right?
To do what you see on the screens, or
Well, if they're going to slaughter animals for human consumption, there got to be a humane way to do it, right? Is that what you're saying?
well.
Or are you just against it, period?
So what we're saying is that we should live in a way that doesn't exploit animals, that doesn't
Right.
commodify.
But you're not saying don't eat. Right, don't eat steak, don't eat pork.
Well, I'm saying that when you're buying those things, I'm not really telling you what to do at all,
Oh,
really.
yeah, okay.
You know, I'm just saying that if you're against killing of animals for unnecessary reasons,
Right.
If you would consider that to be like abuse,
Right.
then
Like hunt them, kill them, and throw them away and stuff. Yeah.
And the way that they're being treated.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
so I guess like, yeah, if you like pay for that, and you say that you're an animal lover or that you're against animal abuse, you're in a state of hypocrisy with your own feelings, you know?
So what you're saying then, if I go to the supermarket and buy...
Is that bride and grooms?
Huh?
If I go to the supermarket and I buy meat, I am participating in that.
Exactly, yeah.
that's what you mean.
Yeah, exactly.
So essentially we're in the form of hypocrisy because we're supporting them somehow.
If you're saying that you're against animal abuse, not everybody is, right? But you seem like you actually do care about it, like you're sincere about it. So that's what we're trying to connect people with is that inner knowing that if they're against what they see on the screens here, then what they need to do is take the step to become vegan from then on.
Oh, but yeah. Becoming vegan is always good. As a matter of fact, I need to do that. But I'm weak. I try to eat less meat, but I love meat. You see what I'm saying? So
It's a step in the right direction.
it's a step in the right direction.
So I would say like what happens when you see that footage and relate to those animals in a way where you imagine if it was you as the victim, you get to a point where you don't see them as food anymore. It does take time for you to change like your taste buds, different tastes and different kind of palate sensations, but when you're in a state of not seeing them as objects for you to use, like as a means to an end anymore, you start to see them as an end in and of themselves, and you actually embrace a type of curiosity about the world where we're not going in with these prejudged notions of what those animals' purposes are, you know? We take ourselves out of the story from ego and we go into eco.
Okay,
Interesting.
interesting. I never really see it that way, to tell the truth. But
It's never too
now
late.
that you mentioning this to me in that way, it makes a lot of sense. So
Yeah, I appreciate hearing that. I mean, and it's never too late to start living in a way where you're respecting them as sovereign beings. I mean, there's people who go vegan into their, 80s, 90s. So I would encourage you guys to look more into it.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Let me give you a card if I may. There's this documentary called Dominion, which is where this footage is from.
Okay.
I'd really recommend that one
Is that YouTube?
just to watch it through. You can go to watchdominion.com. It is on YouTube as well.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. I will definitely take a look into it, but I've heard of slaughterhouses, just, you left your phone?
No, it's in I'm grabbing it.
But to tell you the truth, I used to raise chicken. You know what I mean? And we just see it as
As pets.
not pet.
Well, I never did.
I'm from Jamaica.
So when you look more into it and kind of maybe it's an internal thought process where you just need to maybe ask yourself that if I have a clean city to walk in, fresh air to breathe, clothes to put on my back, and I can eat all the food that I can find, that grows from the earth, from the produce sections, fruits, veggies, beans, grains, nuts, and seeds, and I can still get like veggie burgers and lasagnas and pizzas and pastas. Why would I, if I have a choice, why would I choose the choice that necessitates a victim?
Yeah. I just said it's got to get to a point where I don't have to pray for it because I've seen how it is done. I never really looked into it, but I will.
Yeah, I would say look into it and look into the substitute products that you can buy that replace these. So you don't even really have to change your diet. Just anytime you have Philly cheesesteak, just get vegan Philly cheesesteak. Okay. You can just go about it that way. And then eventually you'll get to a point where you'll see like a pig or a cow or something on TV. And for one, you'll understand that like you'll just look at them in a different way. Like when you don't see them as objects here for your consumption, you actually get a deeper connection, in my view, with like all humanity, with yourself as well. But the most important thing as far as like what I'm trying to tell you as a message is just that if you still support that, then it's still happening because of you.
But if I go in the supermarket and buy it, then I am supporting it.
Exactly.
Right. So it's the unconscious bias of supporting without even realizing it.
That's the whole point.
Yeah. All right, sounds good.
Well, thank you guys for stopping. Yeah, please check out that information. All right, have a great day. Have you guys seen any footage like that before?
Sorry?
Would you like to know what we're showing on the screens there?
It looks like the forest factory farming.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. There's also stuff about like medical testing and like sport as pertains to animals. Do you guys have you guys heard of veganism before?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what we're promoting here, basically. We're basically telling people that if you're not vegan, then by supporting the use of animals for like entertainment, for experiments, clothing, and other unnecessary uses, that you're complicit in animal abuse. And the way that you can stop being against, or stop being for it, and actually stand against it is by going vegan.
Makes sense.
Have you guys ever considered going vegan?
I mean, I already eat practically vegan, unless like the food I make for myself is vegan. But like, I guess that although like vegan isn't just like not eating stuff, it's also like the whole like lifestyle stuff as well.
Well, so it's against any time where animals are being commodified. So basically used as a means to an end instead of being respected as ends in and of themselves. So basically when someone's trying to like dominate them, profiteer from them, exclude them from moral consideration, however, subversively, basically debasing them from their autonomy as sovereign beings and just like saying like, oh, we harvest caviar from this animal and honey from this animal, and come up with names like milk and eggs. Like we don't eat eggs from like lizards or ducks, really. Most people don't. We don't drink milk from dolphins, right? We don't eat like cheese made from dog's milk. So we're trying to get people to examine why they have this ethical blind spot when it comes to certain species of animals like cows, pigs, turkeys, chickens, fishes, and whether the fact that we give them less moral consideration actually has any real life bearing on what those animals experience as compared to what animals who we actually care about would experience were they in those situations. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. I'd like to give you guys some more information. If I can give you some cards. This has some resources for learning more. Are you guys both adults?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you shouldn't have to get any parental consent or anything. And I would say look more into it if it's something that you find resonates with you, that it strikes a chord with you. Because if you don't go vegan and you still support animal exploitation and cruelty, commodification through purchasing those things, then you're basically complicit in that, right? If you're like paying for it, you're supporting it. So you can't say that you're against animal abuse if you are paying for the abuse.
That makes sense.
All right, thanks. You guys have a great day. Hey, how's it going? Have you seen any footage like that before? Yeah, it's hard to see, huh? It's so we're trying to stop that stuff. We're promoting veganism. Have you ever heard about veganism? Yeah. What do you think about it?
It's quite a tough. I came off of meat. I tried it for like a year, and it was a challenge because my body felt the effects of it, but I felt like I was also being more socially conscious. It was a struggle, I'm not gonna lie to you. I did convert back to meat.
So it has had its pros and cons.
Oh God,
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. Saying it like this, just all the more reminder, like.
Yeah, I mean, after you get past a certain point, I think you just stop seeing animals as food. Like, you stop seeing them or thinking of them as a means to an end. And yeah, I think what you were kind of touching on in terms of mindfulness starts to flourish, where you start to see them as fellow beings, you know, right, with whom we share the earth, exactly, who have desires of their own, who are subjective agents, like, unto themselves.
I got a buddy, he really just keeps me reminded, like, you know, meat, especially from animals, our bodies have to do double the work to process that. It's not even a part of our natural processing of the food because of how long it takes to digest it. And then I've got like there's a pastor that does a sermon on this, like he calls it differentiating non-violent foods from violent foods, and this would be a part of what he considers violent.
Violent, yeah.
The process it took to get that served versus just having it served up natural, vegan, raw vegetables, etc., where your body feels the difference in non-violent meals and even the digestive process. Like, I've been going back and forth with it because I do see both sides, and there's a lot of advantages to not doing it.
Yeah, I mean, and what are the advantages of participating in it? I guess like some convenience, maybe some taste pleasure.
Pretty much, that's it. Aside from that,
maybe some traditions or feeding some habits, long-standing habits,
but I think those traditions and habits are some of the same things that need to come down.
Yeah.
They're marketed in such a, they market to our senses. So, you know, we're gonna find that appealing naturally. But if we take the same vegetables and the sort and market it in the same way to combat that, I think this would start to go away.
Well, I mean, these industries try to market to our sensibilities too, right? They try to say, oh, well, this is natural because we've been doing it for so long.
Multi-billion-dollar industries opt into really getting stuff from ourselves and the environment.
Right, and of course, like, these animals aren't going to be able to free themselves ever, right? And even their existence is torturous for them because, like, chickens are bred in such a way where they're laying eggs almost every day. The cows are producing way more milk than they ever would. Like, there's basically, like, these, well, hormones and stuff, sure, but, like, even without them, I mean, just the way that they're born genetically, we've used evolution against them. We basically, like, you know how normally it's, like, survival of the fittest? Like, if you think about, like, you and I, all of the genes that went into us like existing here were ones that basically survived without conditions rigged one way or another in order for, like, you know, from a grand scheme of things, like, nobody brought us into the world with a test tube, as far as I know, you know what I mean? But this is basically like, okay, they need to produce more eggs, they need to produce more milk, they need to produce more wool. Like with dogs, like, they need to be more docile and stuff like that. Like, we basically given them these bodies that don't serve them from an evolutionary perspective. They just serve our purposes for them, you know?
Yeah, that's the key word. Our purpose is not necessarily our health and our diet. You know what I mean?
Well, no, yeah, I mean, that's, of course, that's a whole nother thing, but, like, what I'm trying to really have people focus on here is the ethical justification that we use to do something that we know objectively causes unnecessary harm. You know, like you can't say that what's happening to them isn't harming those animals. So we would have to justify it. And when we have like grocery stores where we can go and you know, clothing lines that we can choose that don't involve animal exploitation, we can buy products that don't involve testing on animals. Like we have all those options. How can we like with in our conscience, you know, when we ask ourselves like what that little voice says, how do we justify it to ourselves and say, you know what, like I know that this cow had to die for these shoes, or you know, I know this goose had to have her feathers plucked out for this jacket. Like how do we justify that to ourselves when we have other choices?
Well, choice is the key word. I think we all know what we're doing. I believe we all get what I believe is, some call it a sixth sense, some call it the voice of God, some call it energy. But we're all given a message. There's like a warning that says, hey, before you do this, just know this is what this is. And we go forward with it. So really just probably listening to the warning sign the first time. Everything comes, like a storm comes, or a warning comes before a storm, so does this. I mean,
It sounds like you're almost making like a theological analogy. Like, would you say that participating in animal abuse, you know, when you don't have to, is sinful?
oh my God. I mean, it's crazy.
In your opinion, of course.
From my opinion, this isn't necessary in order for us to live. Just being truthful. That's just me stating the facts.
Yeah, that's factual.
Right?
Yeah.
Even, you know, depending on what faith, or if there's a faith or a philosophy you follow, some advocate for this, some don't. So it's just really.
What do you think, though, in terms of like a benevolent, loving God, like putting these animals on earth who can, just like us, feel pain and thirst and hunger, who can feel love and have meaningful lives, like, you know, they can have desires that go met or unmet. They can have fears that come to fruition or that come to pass.
Yeah.
You know, they can have meaningful lives. Like things can mean things to them.
I mean, that's why we have, you know, that's why we have veterinarians, and I think that they do a great job of really highlighting the importance of animals, because they're not food sources. They're more so. There are a lot of animals crazy enough that keep humans alive.
But veterinarians oftentimes eat animals, you know?
Which is odd.
It's basically doctors who eat their patients.
That's odd, because the whole purpose is supposed to be to preserve and protect.
Yeah, I mean, there are veterinarians who even work in slaughterhouses, believe it or not.
That's shocking.
Yeah.
That's shocking. I would think that there would be some type of moral compass there, or, you know, so like psychologists, they follow the DSM, and they're held to that same standard. I would think that veterinarians have something of the sort that makes it unethical for them to participate in house activity.
You know, the interesting part is that those veterinarians are actually believing that they're doing something pro-animal welfare, because from a veterinarian's perspective, one could think of it like they're in a place where the animals are, you know, potentially going to have their worst moments, and they're there to kind of help ensure the welfare. So for them, it's kind of almost seemed like a pat on the back, like, you know, you're going where no vet goes, you know, otherwise, kind of, you know, some consolation for them. But the brutal reality is that for these animals, none of them come out from those places alive. We are told to believe that something humane happens from when they're walked in, you know, on their legs, and they're basically walked out in a, you know, in a tray, in a box.
I know that's a lie. If it's anything I've learned, as many classes as I've taken in college, I've had the opportunity to see what they don't show you on the other side, and it's never pretty. It's always quite disappointing, and like, damn.
And it just comes down to the supply and demand, right? If this stuff were televised, demand would go down, and then these companies would have to shut down. The supply would dwindle. And once the supply dwindles, then lo and behold, we live in a world where there's no more animals being bred for the sole, you know, intentions of humans.
And just remember, those same multi-billion-dollar companies are also paying to ensure that what you just said doesn't happen. Unfortunately, It sucks, really.
But the customer is always right? They serve us ultimately.
I am not one that advocates that belief. I think it's the right thing to find ways to serve your customer, but also educate your customer along the way so that they make more consciously in tune choices. But
Sure.
to simply say that they're always right.
Well, I just mean like,
oh no, I'm not attacking you, but when people say that, like, well, the customer's always right.
no, yeah, I don't mean like always right in the sense that maybe I should have said that with a little more nuance. Like what I mean is the customer dictates the hand of the market.
Yes.
So if there's nobody demanding that,
Things like this be checked.
eggs, if nobody's demanding eggs for breakfast or bacon for breakfast or steak for dinner or chicken tenders or whatever, pizza with cheese from cows on it. Like if nobody's demanding that stuff, the market won't produce that stuff anymore.
I agree.
So that's where we have the power. We can actually, like, in some strange, twisted instance of fate, we can basically use capitalism to fight speciesism, help, and the commodification of other animals.
I agree with that. I'm glad I stopped to look at this.
I'm glad you stopped too. So what do you think you'll do?
Well, I've slowly but surely, like in the last 2 years, I don't eat pork. I'm not a big beef consumer. I've gone more and more towards a lot of vegetable diets because this has been best for my health. I can't speak for anyone else, and I'm not trying to say that everyone else should be following exactly like me.
No, yeah. I mean, we don't promote even like a specific type of diet among ourselves or even among vegans. There's no like one vegan lifestyle. It's just whatever you can find that comes from the earth and not from chopped up dead animal body parts or secretions, basically. Everything else is fair game. Fruits, veggies, beans, grains, nuts, and seeds, and all the stuff you can make from them. Mushrooms too, of course.
Well, definitely me making more, it'll pull me even further off because I know I've already started my journey. To tell you completely there is not true, but am I going along the way? Have I pulled back majorly? Oh, absolutely.
Are you resolving to yourself that at some point you will resolve to be vegan?
That is ultimately, so I'm a big fan of Beyonce, and she has gone this route. She does not eat meat or animals. And what I like to see when I see people go that route is I like to see what the long-term effect is. Like, how's their body, how's their health, what do the charts look like? Because I work for a hospital too, so I just like to see those numbers and see how they're functioning, even how their mind is operating after coming off of animal living versus how they thought.
It's interesting because, psychologically speaking, it could even lead to depression, right? To open your eyes to the suffering that you've been responsible for, right? It can cause somebody...
Their destruction. I'm a believer in... It's funny, but true. In certain animals, I've tasted their suffering. And some people thought I was weird for saying that. Probably just didn't understand, but it's real. It's not a joke.
Well, some people even believe that an animal's flesh tastes better if you torture them more before killing them.
That just sounds worse.
But yeah, I mean, I think I forgot what we were saying. Something about suffering, eating the flesh, commodifying them, eating whatever you want. I mean, basically, yeah, we're not trying to get people to eat in a certain way, whether it's like fruits, vegetables, whatever. We're just trying to promote a view of other animals, like a view of the animal kingdom, where other like beings other than humans aren't viewed by us as beings that we can commodify, like ones that we can just use without consideration for what they might want. When you think of it that way, it really kind of makes it hit home when it comes to the breeding of animals into existence, because we're not trying to interfere with what's happening out in the wild where a lion is killing a gazelle and that kind of thing, right? We're trying to appeal to people such as you and I who have moral agency, we're of sound mind, and we can choose whether we make choices that involve like domination and pushing out of others from our circle of consideration, or we can live in a way where we're basically like ecological beings, like citizens of the planet, where no being has to look at us in fear and think that this individual is going to do me harm even if they can avoid it, you know?
That's really good. That's a really good. I'm glad that you stopped me to just have this conversation.
I'm glad you stopped too. Let me give you a card, if I may. So this contains some more information. So that just has like a list of documentaries. This one is Dominion,
I saw this documentary, Nutrition Facts.
oh, that's actually so that's a website, and it's
a documentary.
There are nutrition related documentaries about veganism. There is like What the Health. There's also the Game Changers. But Nutrition Facts, yeah, that's by Dr. Michael Greger. He publishes peer-reviewed research on a plant-based diet. And I mean, you said you worked at a hospital. You might be interested to know the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, which is the largest organization of nutrition experts, dietitians, nutritionists. Mm-hmm. They've said that a plant-based diet is suitable for all stages of life, from infancy to athletics, adulthood, pregnancy, lactating mothers, and so on. So I won't take more of your time, but thanks for stopping. And yeah, I hope you check out that information.
What's your name?
Paz.
Paz?
Yeah.
Terrell.
Cool. Nice to meet you, Terrell. All right, take care.
People will stop and listen to you.
Thanks.
Great insight.
Appreciate it. Take care. You too.